We've called this uh, session Unity in Diversity. That's the theme of how across streams there is a certain unity. We will look at, we'll quickly go through what the summary of yoga. There is a lot that has happened. Just I think to re-summarize the framework in some ways in which we are operating the various things. Then look at the four streams summary again there. And then there is time for just open questions. So whatever, I think we'll keep some time for just that. And the last parts around for further learning and closure. So further learning is to give some uh, references, again, context on if people are interested in continuing this journey of philosophy, yoga philosophy, and learning more about it. So how to look at it, what are the scriptures, etc. We'll cover there, and then closure. So the last part we'll keep about 30 minutes for further learning and closure. So let's see, till 8 we will try and wrap up the open discussion, etc. And if there is still more questions, we can have another session. I think there is time which we can take a little later as more gets internalized. Yeah. Okay. So summary of yoga, which I think hopefully by now most of it is done, that yoga is both the goal and the journey. So the word that is used in the Indian context in traditionally in scriptures, it used both as a process as well as a state. And we have seen that it comes from the word yuj, which means union, to join, to integrate, to yoke in English. We have seen different definitions of yoga, right? Chitta vritti nirodha is a definition as a state. Samatvam yoga uchyate, again, definition as a state. Then yoga karmasu kaushalam, that is the definition as a process. Mana prashamana upay yoga, again as a process. So we have seen both kinds of definitions, and just want to make sure, please remember these key words, these definitions are quite important because they give the essence, they capture the essence of some of the streams, not all, of course, they are relevant to the stream. So based on that, what we saw, the goal, the state of yoga, it's a state where everything is united, every being is united, is unit. It's a state of oneness, a state of onlyness, and there are various hence words because the experience is different. As we will see, darshanas or philosophers have used different words to describe this state, being moksha, kaivalya, nirvana. They are the same states, and to get to that state there is the process, the yogification, which, to simplify, just so that we use the words a little consistently, maybe we said called the process yogification. So we added a new word, otherwise the processes of yoga and the state will keep getting mixed up. Yeah, that's what we did. I'm just trying to point out that that was a very addition. So what was this process? Just to remind, this is again something that we've done, but the overall framework first, and this starts with how the evolution in some way also happened, and that's why the involution is happening. So it starts with nothing, where there is just yoga, that state of oneness, which integrating with the panchakoshas we called as anandmay, and the anandmay kosh, that's also our swa, the self. Then there is a will to create. So that's the cosmic intelligence, or something says, okay, now let's create, let's evolve. And the first step is towards that intelligence becoming a little more manifested as it's going from inside to outward. And from there, the field gets created, right? The field which has a mixture of tamas, rajas, and sattva. So till Vigyanmay, till there is only sattva, and as that evolution happens from sattva, tamas, rajas get created, and that mix then starts getting created, which creates what we call as the field. That's a term we have started called the field of influence of trigunas. This is where the three gunas are constantly in play, right? And in terms of koshas, this is where our manomay kosha, our thoughts and emotions, our pranamay kosha, that is the life energy, and our annamay kosha, which is the body, the physical body as we see it, they are manifested. These layers also why I say this is creation, these layers also, they say there is a similar 5-layered structure or 3-layered, as we want to see it, in the entire creation, in the entire universe. So the universe also has its Annamay, Pranamay, Manomay. There is a mind, and similarly there is a cosmic intelligence, and then there is Anandmay. So at Anandmay there is unification between us and the universe, and what all is there, everything that's there. And the differentiation happens as this evolution happens. That's where the differentiation between even me and you starts getting created. You and the laptop gets created at the last level where the trigunas are playing. Yeah. So because of this differentiation also, what happens, we lose touch in this field. As we operate in this field daily, we are this physical body also. So we lose touch with our cosmic intelligence, because this power of the trigunas can be quite overwhelming. So we lose touch with our cosmic intelligence and hence become aswasth, which is stop being sthit in swasth. If you remember, the swasth definition was being sthit in swasth. So we become aswasth, we lose touch with that. And that's where these, you can say, get very engaged in the trigunas. So what the yogification process offers, it offers that we access this cosmic intelligence back through the tools and processes of yogification, which is what we have discussed through the course with the 4 streams, right? That processes of yogification, and with the intention of getting in touch back with our cosmic intelligence, our Vijnanmay Kosh, right? And once we do that, we have a subjective experience of this cosmic intelligence, right? We have our subjective experience. That experience, when we get in touch with our cosmic intelligence, is very personal in some ways, because it depends on our triguna, our field, because we are still in the field. We're still operating from the field. So our experience, each individual's experience is different. Yes. And then this leads us back into the to our being. But some of the terms which we saw, and I'll summarize again, which we saw, which describe this experience, are like silence, which was linked with the Raj Yoga path, wisdom, which was linked with Gyan Yoga, flow, inner voice, now, freedom, which we linked with the Karam Yoga path. If you remember, stillness, peace, which was Gyan Yoga, and love, which was Bhakti Yoga. So these are some of the different experiences as we get them, that their pure essence. And as we get them, that's when again it brings us back to our Swa, connects us back to it. So this is the outside in process, right? So these tools, a lot of these tools help with the outside in, and we saw some of the inside out tools because we understand this, we understand that there is how the evolution happened. So we can also evolve with our own intention. If we get sthit in some of these Vijnanmay principles, we can again evolve the way we want. That will also influence the trigunas, that will influence our existence in the 3 koshas. Yes. So this sort of is in summary of, again, going back to what all we discussed and putting the 4 streams in that context. Just 2 points which I have made, but wanted to remind that in yogification, there is movement between the field and the Swa, and they are in 2 directions. One is the inward movement or outside in, which is what a lot of the tools are. This is about harmonizing pluralities in our experience, from pluralities to wholeness. Intermediate, there are dualities. If we see them, we experience them, okay. Otherwise, the purpose is moving from pluralities to wholeness, right? From the field to cosmic intelligence. So that's one movement, the inward. And the second is the outward movement, where we anchor. So here the key thing is anchoring in the experiences that we have in our wholeness, right? Our wholeness, the Vijnanmay, those experiences, anchoring in them, and then from wholeness move to pluralities, where we express our Swa, right? Then it becomes the expression. Life becomes an expression of who we are, and not the other way, right? Where what is happening to us influences us. It becomes about us influencing the rest. right? So we are going from cosmic intelligence to field. And that's where all the stories of yogis where they can levitate, all these special powers in some ways, right? It seems like special to us because today we see that the field is influencing us, is so overpowering. But when we anchor in our wholeness, then from there, when we do, it becomes the expression of our life. So these are the two movements. This is the broad, I think, process, what we discussed, what yoga is about, the one state, and yogification as a process. That's the summary. Yeah. Okay. So similarly, I'll just summarize the streams and then we'll keep it open for discussion and questions. Okay, the 4 streams. So the essence of the 4 streams is that there is a common goal, right? These are just 4 streams merging into the same ocean, right? So in some ways, the streams are the yogification processes or streams, and the common goal is yoga. But in our traditional, they are used as, the names are also used as yoga. So that's where the confusion is. But these are the 4 streams. These were identified by Swami Vivekananda ji in his work, through his understanding, analysis, synthesis of all the Indian scriptures. Yeah. Okay. So what is that? What are the streams? Before we get into the streams, let's remember this. This is what we covered, that anchor in the common goal. The common goal is yoga. The other side of that coin is joy, right? And this we saw from this Bhagavad Gita sloka 255, chapter 2, verse 55, Atmani ev Atmana Tushta. When one is joyful in the self, by the self. And this is where all the joy practice, the 5 minutes of joy daily, that Nididhyasan is based on that. So that this is anchoring in the common goal. So this is an inside out process where we are anchoring not in the Vijnanmay elements, but actually in the common goal that we are. This is like the shortest path, you can say, because this is already there in us. Atmani ev, it is in us. So we are just anchoring in that on a regular basis to make sure we express that in our life. Yeah. So then let's look at the 4 streams that were there. We looked at Gyan Yoga, which was based on philosophy, knowing. Karam Yoga, which was about action, work. Raj Yoga, psychic control. And Bhakti Yoga, which was worship, about worship, the process of worship. Okay, so what were the summary? If you remember, we had said each has the units. There is the unit in the field, and there is the whole unit that we experience at the Vijnanmay level, right? So what were those? The single units in Gyan, we were working with knowing, the process of knowing, the process of learning, right? And in Karam Yoga, that unit was our action, right? Action being at 3 levels, not just the physical action, but pranic action as well as manomay action, thoughts as well, right? So pranic action was like speech was one example of pranic action and bodily action. In Raj Yoga, we talked of thoughts, our mind. So psychic control, how do we control our mind into being? And Bhakti Yoga was about emotions. Yeah, so this was Bhakti Yoga was about how do we work with our emotions. The unit we chose was our emotions. And what was the whole units of experience? In Gyan Yoga, it was peace, where we said this knowledge brings in peace. In Karam Yoga was freedom, freedom from the karmic cycle, freedom from getting attached to the karma of every action that is there. How do we karma without getting attached, but be free from it? In Raj Yoga, it was silence, the deep inner silence. And in Bhakti Yoga, this was love. Right? The experience of the supreme love, the triangle of love, if you remember, with those 3 conditions, that there is no fear, there is no transaction, and it is one-pointed. That love. That was the experience of Bhakti. Okay, so these were the 4 units. And now let's look at what were some of the processes. So the outside in processes that we discussed. in each one of them. So Gyan Yoga, we discussed about Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana, right? The one we didn't talk about, but which we have done right throughout, I haven't written, is Shanti Mantras. Because this is about, oh, that will, sorry, come in inside out. So outside in is Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana, right? We have used this across the whole body of our course, right, from day one, right, starting with Nididhyasanas. So we have had different Nididhyasanas, those are the learnings. In Karam Yoga, this was about Swadharma, which we discussed last time, based on Swabhava, which is based on Triguna, right? So Karam Yoga is in the field, so it is based on our Swabhava, who we are, what is our essence, and that is based on the mix of Triguna that we have. That's where our Varnas and Ashrams are coming from. They are not coming by birth, but they are coming by the current state of our Triguna. And that also evolves. So our Swadharma will evolve. It's not a static thing, it can evolve. Rather, it may evolve as our Triguna evolves. So that was Karam Yogas outside in. Raj Yogas outside in, we spent quite a bit, which was Ashtang Yoga, the 8 limbs, Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. Those were the 8 limbs. That is the outside in process of Raj Yoga. And also some elements of Hatha Yoga, which is a preparation for the Raj Yoga. As we saw, a lot of the Hatha Yoga practices were in the 3 fields, in the 3 koshas of the field. And Bhakti Yoga, which is, and even in this, in the Ashtang Yoga, we had those as our, if you remember, the Nididhyasanas. The one was on Yam Niyam that we chose, and the second was the Asan, doing Asans in the Sukham Sthiram with the 3 sutras. So that's the Nididhyasana we chose from outside in. In Bhakti Yoga again, the Nididhyasana we chose, that's the outside in process, right? Which was choosing the object of love, the Navvidhi or the 9 doings, the Panchabhav, the 5 beings, doing it with that. So that, creating that virtuous cycle of cultivating supreme love. That was what we looked at as an outside in. So we did Gyan Yoga outside in, Raj Yoga outside in, and Bhakti Yoga outside in through our Nididhyasanas. Yeah. And then let's look at the inside out. What were the inside out? In Gyan Yoga, there were 2 inside out processes. One was, who am I? That inquiry. Just staying, identifying who is the I which is driving this whole thing. So when we slowly reach the process through elimination, through neti as they call it, not this, not this, na iti, not this, not this, then we realize who we really are, who am I? That's the inquiry. And the other, which we didn't make it explicit, again we have done throughout the course, is any Shanti mantra, because it's about anchoring in peace. So when we recite our Sahana Bhavatu or Sarve Bhavantu, and we do it with that sense of peace, anchoring in that peace every time, we are anchoring ourselves in Gyan Yoga. Okay. So Karam Yoga, this was the 2 processes around equanimity, samatvam in success and failure, and surrender, the fruits, be an instrument, right? This is the Nididhyasana that we've just started. So this is the most recent, and we need time to do it more, and that's what will happen in the rest of the period. But this is the one we did, we've started as Nididhyasana here. Raj Yoga, if you remember, there were 3, which was Anushasan, Abhyas, and Vairagya. These were the 3 anchors of Raj Yoga. Anushasan, which came from the first sutra, correct? Atha Yoga Anushasanam of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and Abhyas and Vairagya, again, which came from chapter 1, the 12th sutra, that these are the key that even they are saying for doing anything in Raj Yoga, which is when we want to control our thoughts, Abhyas, repeated practice, and Vairagya, dispassion, right? Just not, sort of like equanimity in some ways. And Bhakti Yoga, what we looked at was from an inside out were Shraddha and Saburi. Right? Cultivating Shraddha, cultivating that faith, the grace that is there, and that is a faith in something that we cannot experience through our 5 senses. That's the limited, that's essentially what Shraddha is. That's something which we cannot experience through our five senses. So having that faith, and we saw how if we start with a little, then how it grows. That's the natural process of Shraddha. You start with a little and it will keep growing slowly. And that's why saburi or patience is required. So that's the four streams inside out, the tools that we saw. In this, the tool of Shanti Mantra and the tool of Karam Yoga is what we have practiced, like have had it as an explicit Nididhyasana. But in others, whichever again will come to that, you pick. Please remember this, the movement is both ways. It will enable as you do your, even if you prefer outside in, do your inside out. And as you do your inside out, if that's the preference, keep seeing what's happening in the field. Be aware, do some tools of that path also, because this will make it a virtuous cycle. It's going both ways. So it strengthens our connection with that. Okay. Yes. So we'll end this part with a quote from Swami Vivekananda, which actually establishes this, which we have seen, which is each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy. One or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. So I want to highlight three parts. I think the goal we are clear, but external and internal. This is like external is the outside in and internal is the inside out. If you see, so it's external and internal, as he says. That's why I said, please keep both. There might be a preference for one, but we have to look at both, keep both in our awareness. The second is one or more or all of these. Right? So you choose whatever feels right to you. The purpose of the course was also that you experience. That's why the Nididhyasanas were there. So you experience how it feels. There is some inside out, some outside in Nididhyasana. See what feels comfortable to you. This journey is anyway quite a bit. So take the easy path. You don't have to make it difficult, more difficult for us. So see what works for you, which path suits you, which part feels comfortable. Choose that one or more or all of these. And lastly, as you do this, remember the purpose. It's be free. It's to manifest this divinity. So it's to reach that oneness, that yoga. So don't lose sight of that. Between the outside in, inside out, all of that, keep that ultimate goal in mind.